Hello friends, today we're going to talk about something that a lot of people have had to deal with. What to do when a woman ignores you, but we're not going to deal with this out of anger or pride. Instead, we're going to use the Stoic thought as timeless advice that can help us keep our self-respect and confidence. Stoics didn't think about how to control outside events. They thought about how we react to them. The great philosopher Epictetus said that men are troubled not by things but by themselves, because of the rules and ideas they have about things. When someone avoids us, it can make us feel rejected, hurt, or even angry. But the Stoics teach us that our problems are not caused by the situation, but by ourselves. We can always choose how to see things. In the next hour, we'll talk about learn how to control your emotions like the old Stoics did in this practice I Cal. We'll talk about how to avoid the pitfalls when it comes to self-worth, confidence, and personal growth. Instead of trying to get approval from other people, and instead focus on becoming the best. Even if you've never heard of Stoicism before, don't worry. I'll explain it to you in simple terms. Use current examples to walk you through these deep but simple lessons we can all relate to, so we'll use this old advice in modern times. Marcus Aurelius told us about the difficulty of being ignored by a romantic desire. Pretty much everything you need to live a happy life is already inside you. Way of thinking, let's start to develop it together, so take a seat. Keep an open mind and look into how the strong idea of Stoicism can help you. Help us deal with this all too common problem by showing us how to be Stoic. Chapter 1. How the Stoics deal with emotional control. Emotional control. We start our journey by looking within, where the way to calm down lies. Stoics were leaders in the idea that we can control our thoughts and feelings. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power if you learn how to control your emotions and think logically. Over your mind, not things that are happening outside of you. When a woman avoids you, it can make you feel bad, hurt, or angry. Insecurity. But the Stoics would tell us that these feelings come from how we judge her, not what she does. The things that make us upset about those deeds are not the facts themselves, but the way we see them. Of that fact, think about this example. You're sure of yourself and ready for if you go to a job interview and don't get the job, what do? You fall into self-doubt and depression, or do you look at it objectively? This is just one outcome of the many possible outcomes in your job journey. Even the Stoics were not immune to this, bad luck or trouble, but their secret power lay in separating outside events from what they thought about those events. They understood that while they couldn't change everything, but they could control how they felt and what they thought. Reactions. Let's say you're out with friends and a beautiful woman at the bar catches your eye. You introduce yourself, but they don't care or even look down on you. You might feel rejected or embarrassed when she walks away without saying a word, or even anger at her. But take a moment to think about what has really happened. The goal is that this woman, who you don't know, has turned down your approaches. The harmful feelings you feel come from the stories you tell yourself about why she didn't care, that you're not good enough, beautiful, or successful. She ignored you. Those beliefs then lead to feelings. The Stoic road tells us to take a moment to think about this, and think about what's going on. Maybe she's in a relationship or recently had a bad date. Maybe she needed to be on time or felt scared off by your approach. There are many reasons for this, but they don't have much to do with your innate worth. The fact that she ignores you says more about how she is right now than any truth about you by separating the facts from how you see them. Take back control. Take deep breaths and pay attention to your feelings and thoughts, being fair and not judging them. This self-awareness and detachment are very important. Stop the movie in your head when it starts to play bad stories about yourself, and talk to your rational professors like Marcus Aurelius, who asked, "What is this thing?" When you take off the outside shell of a hurt ego, you can see, is there real hurt here, or is this just a quick social encounter? With the more you stress perspective taking over, the less deep it becomes. Knee-jerk emotional responses, the more stable your poise, like working out a muscle. It's a skill that gets better with practice. It takes practice, But having a calm mind in tough scenarios is, and if someone doesn't care about you, you have an important strength. The next time they don't, you'll remember that the Stoic doesn't care what other people think you. You can't change how they act, but you can change how you react, right? Let out a storm of bad feelings or keep your inner meteorological. Stay cool. The choice is yours. Think about your own worth. Chapter 2. Putting attention on self-worth and staying away from pedestals. Stoicism is based on the idea that we should avoid putting things on pedestals. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste not, for people have inherent self-worth." We spend too much time fighting about what a good man should be like, getting approval and self-esteem from other people in relationships, jobs, and they had in society. But the Stoics knew that real self-respect comes from it has a well inside that will never run dry if we are smart enough to keep drawing from it. Due to it, we live in a world full of constant stresses and false beliefs that can change this inner sense of worth. For example, social media has become a place where many people can perform a perfect version of their lives, trying to get likes and shares as proof of their worth. But as the philosophers saw that these are just shells, they don't show what we're like inside. Essence. Imagine this. You work up the courage to approach a pretty girl. Woman at a party, you start talking to her and feel like you have something in common. But then her friends show up, and all of a sudden, you're not even considered. With snide looks and whispers, her mood changes like a flipped switch. From warm to ice cold because her main goal is to win back her friend's approval. At that point, it's easy to feel bad about yourself if you see her behavior change, as a Stoics would tell you to stop and think about what they think about your worth. Have the facts about who you are changed, or is this just someone else's? Skewed view based on basic social interactions that you notice when we put our self-worth in the hands of other people, we are always open to being hurt. And pain, we make them the judges of our self-esteem, which is an inherently unstable and dangerous situation. As Epictetus taught us, we must be careful to use what you can do well and let the rest go as it comes. Sometimes a woman's attention or admiration is out of your control, so cannot be the base for self-respect. Her ignoring you may hurt right now, but it doesn't show anything about your unquestionable value. That value was set a long time ago. Before this meeting, you've worked hard to develop the beliefs, wisdom, talents, and strengths that make you who you are. The important thing is to not think of someone as better than you or put them on a high plane of judgment over your own worth. And remember that everyone is flawed. People who act based on our fears, insecurities, and unconscious patterns. Her rude behavior probably has nothing to do with you and everything to do with how she feels inside. Just like you wouldn't honor the opinion of a mean person, don't be weakened by cruelty that looks like careless disregard. As the popular saying goes, I will be kind to others not because they are people, but because I am. Your sense of self-worth comes from inside you. You can tap into it by thinking about your good traits, skills, and good deeds, not only when you're dating, but in every part of your life. Write down your good qualities, successes, and times when you felt real self-respect. Strengthen this strong foundation of inner worth, and when someone tries to put you down or avoid you, it will be like a soft spring rain off a strong oak tree. Their actions can't change what's deep inside you, so you can wish them well. While you're maintaining your unwavering sense of self-worth, imagine that comes from the truth of who you have worked hard to become. Then no one can treat you badly and make you feel like you're not worthy as long as you. Keeping this inner sense of who you are and what you're worth will set you free from the egotistical traps. Just like no matter how much you want to grovel fear, stay calm and focused on the moral part of you should love this and keep it from being hurt. By acting with wisdom, respect, and integrity every day, you clear the smear. Your highest self is the only judge whose view you can't change. Chapter 3. How to develop a self-superiority mindset. Having a sense of self-importance, the Stoics were not. They were supporters of pride or vanity, but they were sure that no one else was. Epictetus proudly said, "No man is naturally better or worse than you." No one is free who isn't in charge of himself. This doesn't mean putting other people down, but being unwilling to accept a feeling of low rank or servitude is a way of thinking. Of unwavering self-respect and fair treatment of everyone in the world today often find themselves in situations that make them feel inadequate or being scared, especially when talking to people of the opposite sex. And you may work in a place where women are the majority and you're one of the few guys there, or you may find yourself being the only single guy in a close-knit group of married friends, can make you subconsciously think that the women around you are better than you think. You finally get the nerve to talk to a co-worker you've been admiring from a distance, but she cuts you off right away, rejects you with a cocky, uncaring attitude. It hurts that what did you expect? That little voice inside says, she's way off track. No one is interested in you. You're just a low-level guy here. But the Stoics, I would urge you to look at that thought that makes you feel less confident in your own abilities. Leagues, are you okay with the fact that it's not yours? If you thought of yourself as essentially the same and deserving of such narrow-minded social differences would have no weight when we think we're better than others based on surface level. When we give up our inner freedom for things like looks, position, money, or way of life and poise, we let them decide how valuable we are instead of the unchangeable and high judge inside us. Remember that a wise man only sees virtue as real. Epictetus used the vivid image of an inner citadel that couldn't be broken into to represent this sense of self-control, no matter what attacks come from the outside or from within. Despite being hurt, he knew that his true worth could never be seen from the outside. Only from the inside could someone see it. Bad decisions and skewed views, so when that co-worker casually ignores your greetings or polite chatter, keep in mind that her behavior is like an outer gate. It could cause some small trouble. Still, it doesn't pose a threat to your unbeatable inner citadel. Her disregard, it doesn't change anything about your natural worth as a person. This applies to women you might talk to in public who act indifferent or mocking. Surprise them with noble, calm self-control instead of aggressively questioning your worth, for you know that no one can be better than your serene character. Just by making rude movements or acting silly, keep your cool. Being in charge of yourself and having self-control is real power. Do you think what happened helps or hurts your sovereign sense of self-government? And if not, just keep going without caring. Of course, the Stoics were not like that. Not affected by insecurity, anger, or pain. They had to keep reinforcing this seemingly contradictory way of seeing themselves as weak people, but noble is basically the same as anyone else who might see them a great daily. The practice is to picture yourself dealing with women's small acts of disrespect or lack of interest. Who you find beautiful, but who treats you badly and coldly. Imagine that their attitudes and changing ideas don't bother you. Like an emperor who isn't bothered by rebellious citizen, their disrespect can't take away your due throne of self-worth. Being kind, you can take this moral practice even further. By Marcus Aurelius said that the best way to get back at someone is to be unlike them. The person who hurt you, or as the saying goes, the best way to get even is to be not like the person who made them angry. I wish them clarity and wisdom to get past their selfish false sense of self-worth and realize that their behavior comes from fears and insecurities inside. You have consciously given up this sense of self-importance, so it's not pettiness, it's not about ego, but about having your supreme self-sovereignty as a person. Unwavering self-worth that no one can breach because you choose to elevate. You should only judge yourself by your virtue, which is the only real way to measure merit. Someone is trying to put you down by using averted eyes, body language, or words. Scorn, let it hit you like a light spring rain, because it holds no real harm done. Your noble blooming stays bright and whole. Fed by the rich soil of wisdom and right behavior, feel sorry for them. Darkness if you want, but don't let anyone make you feel like you're less important. That your philosophical rule never ends, according to the Stoic view. Self-sovereignty is like a king giving up his seat and crown to grovel with the people at the first sign of trouble, and keep your unbreakable self-respect when you talk to women from that strong inner citadel of sovereignty. her attention or lack of it, that information changes into completely safe data that is neither harmful nor elevating for you to value yourself based on your unchangeable virtues and self-government, and not the changing views of others with practice. One's attention or lack of attention can bother your supreme self-control. Showing respect for others and confidence are all closely linked to building a chapter 4, showing trust and respect for each other. Self-confidence and respect are shown even when you're being scolded. Marcus Aurelius said it so well. The best revenge is to be ignored by others, is to be different from the person who hurt you. When a woman ignores you or shows rude or off-putting behavior, the natural urge is to respond with of your own disrespect, to respond to her rudeness by being rude yourself. But thinking about revenge only makes you look weak, the Stoics say. Understood that how we react to things we think are wrong or insulting says something about our character, not as we judge the offender. We keep the high ground by keeping calm, steady, and being polite no matter what other people do. Let's use being out with friends and several women giving you the cold shoulder all night. It's almost like they don't care. Palpable as you try to have a casual chat with them, they look away, play with their phones, or even make snide comments when you're not looking. Most people's egos would be hurt by that situation, and they would want to strike out. Either directly by abuse or indirectly by turning away in a huff could feel so appealing that you want them to know you don't like it. Their rudeness. But take a moment to think about what they are really trying to do. By increasing rudeness may help you temporarily deal with your hurt feelings, but what does it cost the Stoics? People used to think that acting cocky or rude when someone hurts you shows that you don't trust yourself. Remind yourself that someone is stronger if they don't care about being insulted. Real self-confidence doesn't need to be defended or retaliated against to perceived slights. It shows poise and respect. At this point, the smarter move is to treat the people who treat you badly with respect and a calm, unfazed attitude. Wish to receive, kill their venom with deep disregard for you. Marcus Aurelius said, "Remember that their actions show their insecurities, not your flaws." One of them had the seeds of what is good in his soul, and that is enough. Epicurus gave us some good advice. If you want to move forward, put up with being thought of as stupid or stubborn when people disagree with you. Know that there will be those who, for whatever reason, ignore your friendly attempts, or even make fun of the calm answer. Show respect and refuse to be thrown off balance on the inside. You can see that trust is a big part of the Stoic philosophical system. It doesn't come from always looking for not from other people's approval, but from living with integrity in line with your highest virtues and rational beliefs. As the wise ancient Greek philosopher Musonius Rufus said, that living a vigorous focusing on your true life is the best way to boost your confidence. Self-esteem is based on having traits that make you believe in yourself. It's not arrogance, based on your morals and the things you may have worked hard to achieve. An expert at your job who makes a good difference, or maybe you regularly walk the talk about how you've cultivated your highest values through things like community service, care for loved ones, or good traits like kindness, patience, and resilience during the ups and downs in your daily life. Vivid images of times when you were proud of these traits, times you overcame adversity, rose to hard times, or you've earned your self-worth by putting the wants of others ahead of your own. Based on your actions instead of reviews, will give you a strong foundation of self-confidence, and then think about taking that confidence you've learned into. When someone you're interested in treats you badly, you keep your respect. Instead of getting angry or pulling away in a huff, you don't give in her level of rudeness, but show the poise, charisma, and kindness she has. Marcus Aurelius told himself that he shouldn't give in to his bad behavior right now. The power to make people angry because they don't care, so why give? She may have her reasons now, but they don't mean you have to do what she says. Without giving up your noblesse or calm, with practice you can reach a point where a woman's lack of interest or politeness doesn't make you feel more confident. React with the same spirit of patience, friendliness, and ease as if she had told you hello. The Stoic goes through life with the help of outside approval, like a perfect rudder. When you show this level of deep self-possession often, you'll be able to handle any social situation. Find that the other person can't keep up their bad mood. It's like adding a light rainstorm to dry kindling. It makes it less stable. Equanimity puts out their small fires of rudeness that the Stoics saw. If someone gets mad at you, this is a deep way to teach them through real-life examples. Noble quiet and tranquility will kill them without a word. Self-confidence and poise, even if they don't understand what you're trying to do and react badly at first. Disrespect, your good behavior shows how to rise above smallness. Often, this sparks respect or thought where there wasn't any before. Of course, there will always be people who are too stubborn to take off their rude or cocky masks, no matter what. Negotiation, but the Stoic thought that even this could make a person stronger. Socrates said, "It is better to be rude than to be obedient." By keeping your cool in the face of aggression, you show what an unconquered human spirit looks like. In short, destroy her ego. Is never by reflecting abuse or negativity. Instead, it's by demonstrating the highest level of self-confidence, respect and grace that her bad behavior does not deserve, like the mighty oak, which stands strong through storms with patience. You don't give up. And kind, this protects your honor and gives us a live parable on the decent and wise way to live, staying away from the trap of seeking. Chapter 5, How to Stay Away from the Trap of Wanting Attention. The endless search for attention is a big mistake that the Stoics told people not to make. Man is disturbed by praise and approval from others, as Epictetus put it directly. Not by things, but by how he sees them. When we bond with them, always trying to get other people's praise and incredibly romantic interests, we always leave ourselves open to pain and trouble, no matter how bad they are. Or don't care about us, their changing views of us take precedence over our own. Peace. Let's look at how crowded social media is these days. Every day with pictures of perfect lives and carefully chosen selfies that are all meant to getting likes, shares and comments to get attention and approval. This making the right persona can become an unhealthy obsession in some settings, to get attention and praise, but when we're overly lie, we become slaves. Because we're so invested in this never-ending feedback loop, if a cute new picture gets mixed reactions, we take it as a sign that a judge of our worth, or if a potential partner doesn't publicly swoon over us. The Stoics would tell people to pick up their hurt and anger right away in the current profile. We need to take a step back and think about what the facts are about your underlying value as a person. Changed because of these short-term data points, or are you the same? Having trouble with how much you care about other people's thoughts and approval, maybe, and the pretty woman you were talking with online has all of a sudden stopped responding to your messages. Responding to your words with the same excitement that makes you want to keep reading during a talk. You might wonder if a certain comment or photo turned her off. This makes your mind race with opinions about what she thinks of you right now. But take a moment to use your common sense. As Marcus Aurelius did, what is the truth behind all of this? That took place were bits of digital text hitting or not hitting her mailbox. Whether someone wants to keep talking to you one day and not the next doesn't change your value as a person with self-respect. The pain is only caused by your commitment. In her answers being opinions about your worth instead of easy, neutral data streams to watch without bias, helps you build an unbreakable inner peace by not caring if those words ding. The Greek philosophers often use the vivid image of a rock that can't be moved to describe aging. As rough as the ocean's waves, a woman may feel ignored or ghosted from time to time, like a bee pushing against your sense of self right now. But like that rock, by carefully separating her behavior from your own, you can stay strong and unaffected. As Seneca said, start right away to live and count from your core strength. Every day is a new life when you know what she's interested in, or disinterestedness loses all of its power to bother you through this wide lens. Attention is just one piece of information in the big picture of your life. Stoics also said that if you are constantly looking for approval from a love interest, you might accidentally raise them up. Put on a pedestal that makes real relationship impossible, you have right away made an uneven playing field where they think they are better than you as weak or subservient. Think about a situation where you match an object. A stunningly beautiful woman on a relationship app. Your attention quickly turns to thinking about every little interaction and why she didn't react right away to your first sentence about what her one-word answers might say about her, obsessing over what shots and comments will make her most interested praise. But viewing things through this very alert lens has already made you give up the solid ground of putting her self-respect and trust at risk. By putting the stakes of putting attention on such a high pedestal takes away from the natural ease of encounters. She can feel this energy of needing acceptance, which makes it hard to let down real barriers. A more sensible thing to do is to keep a calm, nonchalant spirit. In Stoic words, the highest good is a thought that is not affected by pain. Remind yourself that her final decisions have nothing to do with how worthy you think you are. She wasn't interested in neither happiness nor sadness, but in serene fairness. When you give off this grounded, easygoing vibe that doesn't come from neediness, you make the friendly the right conditions for a real link to blossom or not, but your never does what she thinks or does affect her sense of self-worth. Stoics thought that being detached from outside pressure was the best way to support oneself and all other people. Fundamental equality means that everyone can be happy as long as they live a life of the greatest honesty and virtue. Is in charge of your sense of completion, as an old philosophy put it so beautifully, said, give up the fears and cravings that reach out to others and become one with yourself. Into the great consciousness. This great consciousness is what the thought that is stable and doesn't change and doesn't need anything else besides the cultivation of, after all, when you honestly think about it, how much substance is knowledge and right living? Or permanence do the things other people say or do not say honestly hold there? When they're present, praise and attention are great, but faces are always forgotten. As your crushes fade, you keep going in a never-ending, unfulfilling loop by tying your sense of self-worth to this changing stream of image and ego, but your sense of inner completeness in your unwavering dedication to good. Every day, your ideas, words, and actions come from an eternal wellspring. That reservoir can be upset by short-term attention or lack of it. In stern words, when a lover comes along, it's important to keep your mind off of that outside stress. If someone loses interest in you all of a sudden, your mind will figure out why. You can think about what they think of you, and the disciplined stern lets those moods go by without a fuss, like clouds moving through a blue sky that never changes, that leads to separation from the outside world. To get praise, you have to work hard at it and change old emotional habits. By doing this, you free yourself from the tiring chains of forever. Looking for approval and attention from other people to boost your self-esteem and inner peace becomes impossible to achieve, unshakable, and often long-lasting. Ironically, keeping your cool and being calm in the face of disrespect sparks more. I would rather seek admiration and intrigue than approval through antics, as Stoics said. It's like smoke rising into the air, so let their egos melt away. Don't pay attention to them the next time someone you're interested in comes up. It sends you mixed messages by being hot and cold. Try to stay cool and not get upset. Don't get too close to them or push them away. Instead, watch their behavior without bias. Something short-term that doesn't hurt your confidence. This is where complete freedom comes in. Moving your attention to personal growth is at the heart of Stoic thought. Chapter 6. Turning your attention to your own growth. Our deepest sense of worth and happiness must come from inside us, not from outside. From outside praise or achievements, as Seneca so brilliantly put it, he is a slave, but shall that do not let him pass. Show me a man who is not a slave to lust. Each person is a slave to fear, and the person who is most afraid is the most powerful. A man who is not a slave to wealth, pleasure, or fear is free. When we become too stuck on seeking romantic praise or approval from others, we enter into a form of willing servitude, and slavery that hurts our mental health gets tied to the changing tides of their acceptance. Taking away our instead, the Stoics focused their intense attention on developing their own liberty. By growing in virtue and toughness in a smart way, this made an unwavering self-respect that doesn't change based on what other people think. Let us look at a familiar situation from today. You just broke up with someone after being with them for a long time. Afterward, it's tempting to look for quick ego stroking and a salve for if you have low self-esteem and are actively seeking new love relationships, you might download dating use apps or go all out at social events, desperately trying to make up for the loss. You feel rejected, but this rush to find proof of your mate's value has made you feel better. Only strengthens your rooted reliance on outside affirmations. Each match or flirty people you deal with become too important to your self-esteem. You up for future cycles of happiness or sadness depending on how they change. The Stoics would argue for a different way, one that looks inward to, as Seneca wrote, you should focus on the sources of worth and satisfaction that you give yourself. It is not enough to just try to be good. You have to go after virtue as well. If you want to learn character, you have to put what you've learned into practice. Spend the same amount of energy looking for value in unstable love relationships. Take up an interesting new hobby or artistic form to help your character grow and improve. You've always wanted to try, read some wise words from philosophers, and set yourself a task. You should either make a conscious effort to live more in line with your highest value use, or work hard to strengthen your mental and physical health by working out, being aware, and eating right. The goal isn't perfection or even public praise. It's just working hard. Nurturing activities, ways of thinking, and skills that make you feel like you have a role in life, inner peace that can't be broken, like taking care of a private garden. You take quiet joy in the fact that its beauty is growing because of your loving care, no matter what others think. Observers say that as you reach a stable level of self-actualization, you no longer hunger for outside sources of approval or self-worth. A casual date or flirting mismatch doesn't define who you are or shake up your strong calm. After all of these things, Marcus Aurelius told himself, should be taken into account in full. And don't let other people's persuasions stress you out. If you can't choose to please the ignorant people who rate you by false standards noblest first, that doesn't mean you should stay away from scenarios where if a romantic desire comes up, the Stoics believed in the virtuous pursuit of love and company, but they would tell you not to make it the end of everything, all for your own peace of mind. Let's say you go to a social event. It was full of strange people, ideal conditions for an inspiring meet-cute scene from a movie, but instead of coming in with a thirsty, needy vibe, instead of focusing on your pressing need to connect with others, learn how to be stoic. Traits you've worked to develop. Can you show patience, openness, and how do you keep your cool when starting clever, curious conversations? Your honor and true friendliness if they are met with lack of interest or care. Would you be calm if you put your trust in the person you've carefully shaped yourself into, by the outcome of any individual contacts you might connect with? When you are sure of yourself and confidence in yourself, you can connect with someone on a real level. Even if that doesn't happen, you'll be happy knowing you stuck to your ideals and won't need anything else. Anyone else's approval to feel worthy of this path to wholeness, it takes hard work and changing old habits all the time to change what's inside. Our pleasure and pain areas have become used to looking for hits of validation, like lab rats pushing a lever for brain activity, in the same way that addictions to things like social media cause dopamine to be released. Attention from a love interest gives us short-term pleasure that makes us want more, but the Stoics believed that these behavioral chains should be slowly loosened, and getting our minds off of temporary benefits from outside sources. As Epictetus said, you are just a chicken soul carrying around a dead body. Take away the bodily and social status markers and understand that there is an ambitious core. Of Marcus Aurelius said something similar, essence longing to be priorized. suggested that separating mind from body form should be done regularly. By thinking about the present moment, for example, if a romantic interest turns you down, consciously notice when seen from afar any feelings of sadness or self-doubt that come up. Do they come from your body's urges and needs, or your immortal developing this mindful separation as a way to protect the brain that stays whole, a body part you train to stop connecting completeness with temporary things to other people? You go back to the citadel of balanced reason and self-actualization that makes up your most accurate core satisfaction. The Stoics thought that seeking virtue and understanding was the most important thing a person could do and the key to lasting happiness. Contentment that makes the daily whims of love attraction seem silly. Someone once said, "Being able to call your life your own is a blessing, but to I owe that to your self-mastery is the best gift of all, and you can only find self-made happiness inside yourself. So set your sights on the real joys and improvement you can give yourself by becoming a master's student." People who practice knowledge, honesty and moderation look forward to compliments from others as sideshows along the way, beautiful when they're there, but mostly when you separate, it doesn't affect your path to self-actualization, your self-worth from looking for approval from other people. You can reach true and important happiness that you can control when you don't have to worry about being liked, offers you the chance to make real relationships or keep growing on your own. Showing emotional chapter 7, being strong and resilient emotionally. One of the most important things that Stoic philosophy says you should do to build strength and resolve is stay rooted in the present moment and don't let the ups and downs of the past or worries about the future affect you. Marcus Aurelius was very wise when he said, "Be in the present." Ignores or rejects you. It's normal for your mind to keep going over. You may think about what happened and what it might mean for you forever, about why you may have given up on beating yourself up over what you did wrong, or nightmares about never finding a partner and being doomed to. The Stoics would tell you not to care, but these thoughts are strengthened by your irrational feelings, don't have much to do with the real world right now. Right now, by keeping calm and rooted in the unchangeable present, you cancel out a lot of the "let's look at the pain" that mental time travel causes and how to stop it. Example of a tough situation at work that you need to be able to handle with confidence. I tried to talk to a beautiful female co-worker but was rudely turned down. Your friendly attempts are dismissed or turned down with what could be seen as rude indifference answers that are cut off while she looks at her phone or away from most people. The negative effects on my emotions from this meeting would last for a long time. Anger at her self-doubting of all your words because she feels like she's not good enough. This poisonous mental stew could take over your mind for hours or even days. After that, every repeat brings back the pain, making things even worse. But pause and ask what part of this emotionally draining fallout has anything to do with the awkward social exchanges of right now are based on facts. Already past, she has gone back to her own world, probably without any extra work to do. So why bring your mental baggage into your precious real-life moment after? For a moment, the Stoics thought this was a very bad way to hurt oneself. As Seneca wrote, "We suffer because we are scared more often than we are hurt." More from your imagination than from truth. By letting your mind tell the difference, the ability to become overwhelmed by thoughts and memories of a past interaction you consciously make and feeling of pain that isn't connected to any real danger. Imagine that right after you deliberately let out a breath and let go of the whole thought event, like a breath dissipating into the air. Even though the feelings may have hurt for a moment, you calmed down. Is this the new world where she lives on the edge and you stay? Foremost, the Stoics called this state of calm presence apatha, a calm, balanced state where one's tranquility lets them make decisions without being affected by their feelings. Disturbances from that place where you feel in control of yourself. You make a thoughtful her behavior was probably caused by her fears about the way things work at her job, or temporary stresses that didn't really have anything to do with you. Then you right away turn your attention to the next square on your life's chessboard. Instead of focusing on feelings that don't exist anymore, You use all of your skills to deal with whatever next a useful reality sets in. It's time to get back to work on a major job, or you might call a friend you've been meaning to catch up with. The Stoics were not mindless robots. It was clear to them that feelings like hurt, anger, and sorrow were inevitable reactions that people have, especially when they feel insulted or rejections. The goal was never to get rid of normal feelings, but to refuse to give them thought space and stories that repeat themselves, that could make them hurt over and over again. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in the universe changes our lives based on the ideas we hold on to. Eternal now made it easier for us to imagine that someone could feel feelings. While not being bothered by them at all, they come and go, and the moment stays the same. With consistent practice, you can get to the point where rude co-workers and other upsetting situations don't hurt you as much. As a light spring breeze blows across your face, let yourself feel the feelings. Let them go, and sail on like a steady ship into the next moment, with you have an emotional barnacle that is holding you back. This inner strength and resilience comes from the basic Stoic idea that we can't control everything outside of ourselves. We are in charge of how we react to situations on the inside. No one, no matter how cruel, can change our peace of mind without forcing us to do what Epicurus said it wasn't. What happens to you doesn't matter as much as how you handle it. When you grasp your power to accept and let go of temporary events, you change in a big way. You are immune to the emotional tractor beams of everything from rude romantic interests to rude people. See, our feelings don't always come from reality itself, but from we quickly make up biased stories to explain and put events in context. Did she ignore me because does she feel sorry for me or look down on me more than the facts? By themselves, these inner stories cause the most intense stresses, but the Stoic stays calm and doesn't get upset, looking at every situation through the filter of their best thinking and taking responsibility for their answer. If you've really shown virtues like the lack of trust, goodwill, and respect for others shows more about the person. These flaws in their character are more important than any truth about yours. The strong person is a great contrast to the dangerous situation of they go through pride and the reaction dramas of people who don't have self-mastery. Having problems with uplifting grace and immunity from mental illness that causes problems, you should feel the first pangs of sadness, anger, or even anger during times of not being cared for or rejected. Let's those short-lived allow feelings to flow through your body and forgive those feelings. A non-judgment. But I refuse to keep doing them by doing the same thing over and over again. Stories from the past and worries about the future, like a calm creek that isn't affected by the wind. Despite the raging storms upstream, you stay a steady way for each a brand new moment with the most energy and clarity. This inner oasis of being present protects you from intense feelings that would otherwise drain your energy and calm you down.
Stand refreshed and renewed as the personification of that most beautiful trait in people's soul, deep calm, ignoring her presence and making chapter 8. Ignoring she exists and making people curious. As the Stoics knew, the mind is a strong force that can grab our attention, quite literally shape our experienced world. As Marcus Aurelius put it so well, when we let our thoughts color our soul, it turns the color of its ideas. Powers to be used up and died by thoughts that are focused on one thing, a woman's interest or admiration. We take away our freedom as separate people walking in our path. Maybe you've felt this way too. You see an interesting woman at a work social event, or while you're doing normal things, all of a sudden your attention is drawn to her like a rocket. You play out imagined situations as you look for possible interest or openness. As you think about different possible outcomes and decide whether and how to take action. You've lost your confidence and sense of power because you're so focused on one thing, happiness, right now. Depends on her response to or rejection of your feelings in the process. You've given up a big part of your self-respect and power over what road you take in life. The Stoics knew that there is deep change power in the opposite method, which is to completely accept what you want. Not important to your worth and going through life without being chased by the need for, in a metaphysical sense, this detachment from you are the only one who can decide if getting approval is the highest form of self-actualization. Your worth can't be increased or decreased by what other people think of you. Others, your source of approval shifts inward, and you become emotionally almost impervious to the changing winds of interest or boredom. Such poise and unreactive confidence and the incredible strength to carry on through life have an interesting effect. Worry-free about whether someone flicks back their bait or completely ignores you. There is a clear trend: essence. Confidence moves toward essence confidence. Let's look at a more recent example from the world of celebrities. Why do people like Keanu Reeves or Larry David's pictures are so interesting? In part because of their obvious lack of self-confidence makes you think they go through life without being affected by anything. Or worried about what other people think or say about their status. They're not caring about what other people think makes an interesting allure. Imagine spotting a woman at a party. She's beautiful and bubbly. You feel a natural urge to connect with her and feel better when you're with her. But instead of worrying about how to talk to her, you choose to have a certain attitude of utter indifference to the fact that her presence or absence has no effect on. She has nothing to do with your current life goals and feeling of purpose. Whether she pays attention to you or not, it's your trip and your feelings is just as important as trying to find a hotel pen while you're traveling. Irrelevant from this position of neutrality that doesn't react. You move through the AI social event with a new sense of poise and freedom that makes you laugh honestly with friends, putting yourself into the experience instead of always looking around the edges for her interest. You give off the magnetic confidence of someone who is sure of themselves on their own, and you'll find the object of your passing fancy for some strange reason when you're so sure of yourself. Into your area, like the Stoics knew how to detach from wanting to be admired, makes a strong impression of mystery and presence that naturally makes people curious about what you've made, allowing a natural development to happen without attachment or investment. By stepping back her importance from your mental point of view. If your paths cross, you can quickly greet her without holding back any hopes, and if she decides to, you've stayed on the lucid path, which means you're following your greatest, most honest self. Stoics called this way of life living by nature, moving with rather than refusal to hold on tight to the currents of a situation as they happen. When you let go of preconceived dreams or fears, you become an open vessel for creative. This transcendent outlook takes, of course, good forces to make it happen. Hard work to embody, especially in a society steeped in romantic myths and the romanticization of impossible pursuits of reciprocity. Our thought loops that objectify or valorize are very good at taking over people's minds, putting their thoughts about the future on a platform. But using the Stoics' set of self-control, we can change those fixed thoughts into flashes of observation without attachment. We fully understand the bodily appeals and approach any invitations that may come up while staying firmly unbound from if there is a mutual agreement or desire.
The self-possession is as Marcus Aurelius kept telling himself, give yourself a gift, the present. The moment Master Yuli handled them, they made you not want anything, great or kind, but you only deny yourself this pleasure because you save your keeping your respect and focus on the present by not caring at all about whether your wants come true, spark to satisfaction, or quickly go out. The allure has changed, for intrigue falls in love with those who are already going through life beautifully cared for by their wholeness in the vast. The Stoics' calm appearance is like an open, non-reactive field that could lead to romantic connections. They appear on their own when they're supposed to, but like all ephemera, they can live without grabbing you or making you move without stopping, radiating the powerful, the art of living a life with a deeply satisfying goal in the end. In what Seneca said, no bigger blessing has been given to anyone, one more than self-mastery, in ignoring other people's existences to choose your road. You've reached the highest level of confidence, not the explosive ego powder, but an unquenchable inner light shining out. Your value goes up through respect, wonder, and a truly empowered sense of selfhood. Chapter 9. Improving yourself will make you more valuable. Self-improvement is at the heart of Stoic thought. It contains the deep truth that our most valuable asset is not money or power in this world, but the wealth we build inside ourselves by being good. Marcus Aurelius said it so well: living and wisdom are the only wealth. The money you've given away is the wealth you'll keep forever, or so it seems on the surface. It doesn't make sense that giving or refusing things can make you richer, material wealth, but the stone knows that the things that raise and the words liberate the human spirit are ones we must keep sending out through acts of kindness, resilience, honesty, and courage in what we do and how we live. Temperance and integrity are the incorruptible riches that make a person who they are and prove their value. From a deep well of goodness, and the more we live by these higher standards, the more solid and sure of ourselves we are, the better we can handle life's expected setbacks and shaky judges. Imagine being ignored or overlooked by someone you're interested in emotionally. How would you feel? If they put their sense of self-worth on wanting that person's attention, the emotional pain can be very bad and have a negative effect. Their sense of self-worth. But what if your sense of worth went beyond the what if you had been limited in your love or physical goals? Carefully put money into building wealth reservoirs that could never be destroyed by one person's rudeness or lack of interest have an effect on the wealth of emotional knowledge, mental toughness. If you know a lot and help other people, you may feel a hint of natural sadness at being turned down. Your core stays stubbornly. Without being impacted, you've protected Ed and improved your own self-worth by focusing on growth in places that can keep growing on their own, instead of shortfalls caused by short-term events, as the Stoics put it. The Art of Living concept says that we should plan our lives so that they are masterpieces. Character growth and ever-growing knowledge that makes our skills better by fervently committing to knowledge and ideals every day. We build an unbreakable interiority that rises above small attacks on our temporary pride. Marcus Aurelius was a strong emperor. He was in charge of the Roman Empire, but he was always trying to get better. Famously writing in his diary about his philosophical meditations from this viewpoint, he could keep his cool and not get emotional. When he feels insulted or disrespected, for his sense of substance came from a hidden place deeper inside. You imagine you've worked hard for months or years, learning something you're interested in, like history or computer science, business, or anything else that sparks your natural curiosity, with unwavering focus and dedication. You've learned a lot of ideas, theories, and skills that are related to this field, that have helped Ed learn new things and become smarter. Then one day you find yourself with someone you like in a social setting, only to have them look right through you, or don't seem to care about you at all. Those who get most of their self-worth from romantic respect, the experience could lead to a downward spiral of self-doubt and mental pain. But for you, their lack of interest may hit you with a quick, rude blow. Stay cool and poised. Your deepest sense of who you are will guide you. The intangible treasures lead to happiness and determined persistence. Through your diligent studies, you've carefully grown a wealth of knowledge and reaching full self-actualization that can never be harmed by disrespect from temporary others. This concept goes far beyond in classroom settings. It could mean learning how to use emotional intelligence to become a great listener, and AC is a caregiver for loved ones who achieves huge feats of willpower by getting in shape and mastering your body, or focusing on a skill or art form. That requires constantly improving artistic skills in any area that stretches our ability to deal with pain, demands spiritual growth, and firmly tells our essential selves to awaken and become aware of this. This is where the real wealth of being a person is carefully crafted by the Stoics, knew this essence inside and out, and they knew the unbeatable value that comes from it. The parts of ourselves we've dug up and decorated as sovereign self-authors, not the externally given merits we rent for a short time. This doesn't mean the rejected pursuing excellence in worldly goals like job and social status, or even traditional beauty routines, but they knew what they had done. As more like nice extras that went with the main soul sufficiency they had purposely created. as the masterpiece of their lives through control, restraint, and radical self-honesty. As an example, let's look at job and skill building. Excellence. Let's say you've worked hard for years to become one of the most knowledgeable people in your field. You might be a well-known expert who has spent thousands of hours improving your skills. Basic knowledge, or you're a teacher who is always coming up with new ways to teach that tangible ways to encourage your kids. Then one day at a social event, you find attractive for shallow reasons, laughs at or ignores your professional achievements with a cocky air for people who get their identity from symbols of ego, might punish success and status with such a hurtful slight drops and bursts of anger. But for you, you were rooted in the serene self-respect that comes from hard work on self-actualization and spiritual skill building. The Deist doesn't pose an existential danger to their dismissiveness, only shows their fears and lack of knowledge, leaving nothing to the imagination. Leave the monumental virtuous wealth you've worked so hard to earn alone, becoming a deeply skilled person who can help others, as Marcus Aurelius Cayley warned us that the way our minds change our lives interprets that change. So you calmly interpret their haughty attitude as more tragic than dangerous. They let the meeting pass them by like a meandering spring cloud. Your calmness stays in place, and your core course stays the same. The Stoics called this state of being blissfully calm eudonia, which means joyous flourishing, and living a full life that comes from regularly watering the seeds of virtue and self-mastery. In insult, setbacks, and even tragedies that destroy lives may slightly ruffle they have sensitive surfaces, but they don't threaten the greatness we've brought to the world by widening our insight, grit, respect, and love. Remember that real goodness doesn't have an outward appearance, but is something that is inside someone and can't be taken away. Only the joys we feel inside are real sources of happiness, so on the way forward, make a conscious decision to master treasures that are unseen. To the world's judges, an unchanging treasure trove of character strengths, self-empowerment, and soul-illuminating information that makes you more respected. In line with nature's noble grandeur, you become impossible to ignore once you've courageously reached the center of an unwavering, non-negotiable sense of if you are worth something to yourself, a great self-possession that dwarfs the flares of other people's egos and narrow vision. And often ironically, those souls that are open to it and are also aiming for wholeness are most drawn to its bright, shining light. They don't see individuation as an outside force, but as something that happens on its own. Radiance that can't help but be interesting, admirable, and Chapter 10, How to Live by the Stoic Virtues. Living by the virtues of the Stoics was impossible to avoid for the Stoic philosophers. All of their lessons came together in one mission: to live a life taking on the basic virtues of human excellence, as Marcus Aurelius put it. Live a good life. We can, if we can learn to not care about anything, about what doesn't matter. This idea of what doesn't matter points to the Stoics' keen ability to figure out which parts of daily life held inviolable importance and which were brief distractions with no real meaning, by teaching themselves to tell the difference between what's important and what's not by doing it over and over again.